Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and it's time for, another Ask Me Anything Southern Gardening Live Facebook event. So just going to let everybody kind of get a little bit of time to, to come into the Ask Me Anything. We are a little bit late today. Ellen had to go get an extra latte for somebody else in her office, but she finally got there, finally got us going. Ellen, you're good. What I wanted to do today is, I've had a couple questions already, but I want to just give you just kind of a little idea about what we're doing here at in my Ocean Springs garden, the Heritage Cottage Urban Nano Farm. Now, not that I'm going to brag, not that I have ever bragged about anything that I grow, but I was out this morning and I was picking lettuce that really needed to be picked. The heads were, let's see, let me try and get that so you can kind of get the full effect there of these lettuces. We're getting ready to get into warmer weather. I wanted to pick these lettuces, but let me just show you what I've got here. One type of lettuce that I like to grow, and we started growing these when we were at the farmers market several years ago, are these little mini romaine heads. These are full-size romaine lettuce heads, and they're perfect for a single-serving salad. That's why I really like these. You don't have to worry about picking the head, and how can I eat that big honking head of romaine lettuce? Perfect salad size. Love the colors. I really love the red lettuces that we can grow. Other ones that we've got, and this guy is it's a speckled. I don't know. Can I get some better light on that? Maybe try to get this under the lights a little better. But this is kind of a loose leaf head lettuce. It's an heirloom variety. Oh, we've already got Dean. I think you are the first one to comment again. Thank you very much. But this is a speckled leaf heirloom variety that I get from Baker Creek, and it's got a German name. I don't remember what it was. I should have written it down, but it's delicious and it's very pretty. Another here, and I'm getting ready to get all tangled up in my cords here. Another heirloom speckled variety that forms not a loose head, but we've got it's head forming. But look at the speckles on those leaves. Another gorgeous lettuce that's really easy to grow. Hey Meg, how you doing this morning? Oh, and you're going to ask, when do you start growing lettuce in the fall? Thank you for the first question. Really, now where I'm at in zone 9A, I can start growing lettuce. I'll sow seeds in October, and then you can succession plant or succession sow seeds all the way through. And I think I stopped sowing seeds, the lettuce seeds, in February. And some of those plants I've been growing under lights inside. These were probably sown around January 1. And I grew them as plugs, and I had those out in the garden. And then one last one to show you is this cute little head lettuce. And I grow two of these little small head lettuce. One is called tennis ball, and that was a variety that dates back to Thomas Jefferson's Monticello or Monticello. I forget, because we have Monticello here in Mississippi. Anyways, Thomas Jefferson grew tennis ball. But this one is a heirloom variety from Baker's Creek called, hang on a second. Oh, like Tom Thumb or Tiny Tom, something like that. But again, it's a very cute little lettuce. And I wanted to get these picked before we got into the hot weather, and then before we get into bugs, which is going to happen. Now, pardon me just for a second. Let me put these up. Yeah, it's a little frustrating being hardwired to the camera here. I have to figure out how I can get some wireless equipment that will work on the Ask Me Anythings. Oh my, look at all the questions here. And I haven't even gotten through all the stuff I was going to talk about this morning. So let's get into the questions from Oni. Do I need to replace the dolomite in my earth boxes this growing season? Yes, ma'am. Every time when you're growing in an earth box, and as Southern Gardening Nation knows, I love my earth boxes. And I always like to brag, I have 136 here out there in the backyard. But every time that you replant, you add dolomite to the system. You don't have to worry about driving the pH up too high because you're growing in that professional peat-based growing mix, and we really don't see the pH rises that we'll see in a native soil just because of the physical characteristics of that peat environment. So here we go. Oh, here, and I got to say, I'm going to jump ahead. Meg Mathis, Tom Thumb. What did I say? Tiny Tom something? What was, listen, tell me, was I even close? Anyways, so yeah, Tom Thumb, first time I grew at this year, really like it. I'm going to grow it again. Let me go to questions before I get to some of the other things I have planned here. So Dean, when is the best time to prune azaleas? Living just north of Savannah, Georgia. Okay, Dean, here's the thing. Azaleas are, we love them in the spring because they bloom in the spring. So you want to wait until after they bloom or until the flowers start to decline. And then you've got really a time period up until June 20th, that the first day of summer. Or you can just think of 4th of July. That's maybe an easier date to remember. Because after that, the azaleas start to form the flower buds for next year, for 2023, as the day length starts to get shorter. So we don't want to prune anything past 4th of July, because what do you end up doing? You end up pruning off next year's flowers. Now, if you don't care about the flowers, you can prune all the way through the summer. But why do that when you can prune at the right time and enjoy the flowers next year? So that would be my advice. Just wait till they're done pruning, prune them, boom, and you're done. Okay, and Claudia, hey, how you doing? Missed you the other night at Sunnyside. Yeah, that was fun, helping Colleen with that dinner party and the whole crew. I just basically got in the way because of the well-oiled machine of everybody. But I got to put the rolls and I got to put the parsley on the dishes, so I felt like I actually did something. So that was a lot of fun. Other questions we got here from Judy. Best control for aphids on tomato plants. Stink bugs in the summer. Okay. Aphids on tomato plants. There's some indications that we can use spinosad on aphids. That will work. Generally, though aphids, unless it's a really heavy population, don't really cause a big issue on tomatoes. Stink bugs, on the other hand, do, because they'll poke the tomatoes and you get the bad spots on them. So for aphids, I would go ahead. I would go with spinosad. It's organic. It will give you some control. It'll help control leaf miners that will get on tomatoes. Stink bugs, another issue. There are some products out there. I like to use permethrin. You got to buy it at the 10% solution. I use that for stink bugs on tomatoes. There's another one. It's Scythier. Oh, see, and I'm not good on the all of the chemical things, but send me an email, southerngardening@msstate.edu, and I will get that exact information. And that goes for anybody that I'm not really clear on my answer, because sometimes, you stump me on things. Send those emails to me, and I can answer those with a more coherent answer. How about that? Okay, so let's see here. So Joe, what makes lettuce bitter? My grandkids don't like it, and I don't either. I grew the best tasting lettuce in Vermont from where we're from. Okay, Joe, really, what lettuce starts to get bitter when we start getting into these upper 70s, lower 80 days, which happens, sometimes early April here in Mississippi. That's one of the reasons I wanted to cut that lettuce this morning, because I want to get it away from those temperatures so I can enjoy it. Because yeah, it does get bitter, but that bitterness will, you know, be greater as the temperatures rise. So that would be my best advice. Just harvest before it starts getting hot. Not so sure if fertilizer makes any difference or soil conditions makes any difference. In my experience. So that would be my answer to that. Okay, so Meg, I have time for only one more question. Only one more, Meg. Come on. What do I amend or refresh my grow buckets with before I plant anything in them? Okay, so the grow buckets, if folks aren't aware of or don't know what they are, they were an insert that you can put into a 5-gallon bucket and make it a sub-irrigated container. I think they're brilliant. Besides my 136 earth boxes, I've got a dozen of the grow buckets out in my yard too. Treat those exactly the same as your earth boxes. Add dolomite every time you replant. And of course you're gonna have to fertilize them, but dolomite every time, because you're using that professional peat-based growing mix, right? So that would be my advice on that. Okay, oh my gosh. And Dean, hey, thanks. I'm skipping ahead. Loves the grow buckets. Sorry, Ellen, I skipped one on you. So Dean, recent cold snap wiped out my Carolina jasmine flowers, even took out the foliage. Foliage appears to be coming back. Keep an eye on it. How far back can I prune it and when? Good question. Yeah, you're right. The Carolina jasmine, or Carolina jessamine, as some folks call it, native plant. It's evolved to handle, kind of the late season frost and freezes that we can get, and knock the flowers out, but start to regrow again. What you really should do is, as it starts to regrow, take a look at any parts of that vine that aren't coming back. And you'll be able to see, once the new growth pops out, you'll see the parts of the vine that were killed back by the cold temps. Go ahead and prune those out, and you'll be fine with that. Hang on a second, I need a drink. Okay, so we've got a little lull in the questions here. Marilyn sent me a question earlier on the Southern Gardening Facebook page, which everybody can do. But she asked me, with her earth boxes, she had aphids last year. And her question is, because she had the aphid infestation, does she need to replace the potting mix that's in her earth box? And Marilyn, no. You don't have to replace that potting mix. The aphids aren't overwintering in the potting mix. So there's no need to do that. If you really wanted to be sure, just for your own peace of mind, you could go ahead and drench your earth box with a spinosad solution, and drench it with 4 tablespoons of the spinosad, like Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew, to a gallon of water. Drench it. You'll be fine. There's no need to dump the earth box out because of pests. Okay, so again, we've got another little lull here. I can't believe, where's everybody at this morning? maybe out gardening because, hey, it's pretty nice outside. I wanted to share a little bit of something that I've been working on, and that's, well, I've started growing more, well, besides the lettuces there, I've started growing more interior plants out here on the back porch. And one plant that I'm really fascinated with, and I'm just going to reach over here so I don't have to unplug myself, is a plant that's called ZZ plant. This is an easy care plant. It's Zamioculcas zamiifolia. It's hard to pronounce. It's a tongue twister. ZZ plant sounds so much better. But this is a plant that tolerates neglect. It tolerates you forgetting to water it for weeks on end. And it tolerates very low, really even dark conditions. And I've been playing around with it. And there were some questions earlier, or it may have been before the first of the year, about how to propagate these. And you can take the whole stem, this whole stem off right here to propagate it. But if you do that, basically you lose most of the plant. So we had some discussions on social media about, well, can we just take, I'm just going to break a leaf off. Can we just take a leaf and propagate it like we do African violets? And I thought, I don't know. I've got to figure this out. So what I did, I took some of my bootstrap farmer equipment, the little 5-inch containers, very rugged, very durable. I'm never going to have to buy this size container again because they're not going to wear out. And I use the little 5-inch humidity dome that they make for these. And I love these because there's vent holes on the top, and they work out really well. So what I did, I took some ZZ plant leaves. And what did I say after first of the year? I always say make tags. So this is the dwarf variety that I have. And I did this on January 29th. See, that's why you make tags, because you just don't remember everything. And what was very interesting about this, I'll go ahead and pull one out. And if you look at that, can you see some of the, yeah, let's see here. Wait a second. There we go. Look at the roots that are formed. And I'm gonna wash this off a little bit, see if we can see some of that a little better. Here's my wash bottle. But what they do is they form a little, let's see here, there we go. They form a little tuber. ZZ plant grows with these fleshy tubers, and this little tuber is growing at the end of the leaf. So I just propagated a whole bunch of ZZ plants, just trying something out. I think this is really neat. So that's one of the things that I've been working on here at the Nano Farm, learning how to propagate some of these really cool interior plants. Okay, so let's get back to the question. So Tammy asks, where's the best place to buy the grow bucket? Amazon.com. You can go ahead and look there. If you want to send, Tammy, if you want to send me an email or send me a message in Facebook, then I'll send you the link. And they sell them, and I'll tell you, they sold them in sets of 3 and sets of 10 last year. I'll get you that information, or just go to Amazon and grow bucket, and you'll see what we're talking about. Now, Meg, I thought that you were only going to ask me one more question. No, I'm just teasing you. Tell us about the Barbados cherry. Last year, I started growing a tropical fruit tree called Barbados cherry. It's a fruit tree that evolved, guess where? In the Caribbean, in Barbados and those islands there. And it produces a kind of a red fruit that changes to a dark purple. They used to grow a lot of it in South Florida as a crop. Acerola, Acerola. Um, but they're really an interesting fruit tree. They flower all through the summer with these really bright pink flowers. Oh, and I'm just watching the dog just open the door somehow and let herself out. Um, but they produce these pink flowers all year long through the growing season, and the fruit they're not really like a cherry. They're more like a raspberry or a blackberry, the kind of that berry flavor. But they're really interesting and they're unusual, and that's one of the reasons I like to grow Barbados cherry. It is not tolerant of temperatures below 30 degrees, probably even below 35 degrees. And so most of the time this winter, it lived in the garage. Survived. It's flowering. I was sharing some pictures the other day of it blooming, early part of April, and there's little fruits starting to develop on it. So I'll share some pictures on that. Not widely available. You probably have to ask your favorite independent garden center if they could source that for you. But Barbados cherry, if you're into unusual types of fruits here in the deep South, one to check out if you want to do that. Okay, and Sue says, love my ZZ plant inside, doesn't like too much water. That's the truth. I brought a ZZ plant home for Kate several years ago, and I think she watered it like every 2 months. It sat on one of our tables in the living room, looked great the entire time. Total inside, total neglect, loved it. So yeah, ZZ plant's really great. Okay, so Audrey's asking, what is the best paste tomato? Oh boy, asking the best tomato is kind of a loaded question, because folks will have their own take on what's the best. And if you ask me don't ask me about taste, because I don't like fresh tomatoes. I like paste tomatoes because we can make sauce and things out of them. There's a couple that I've been growing. If you want to go like an heirloom route, San Marzano, it's kind of a classic paste tomato. You can try that. I have friends up in North Carolina that swear by that. Not so sure it grows great here in the deep South. I started growing one from, I want to say it was from Burpee, but it's called Super Sauce. And it's a paste tomato that's as big as my hand. And it is solid, and there's not much void in it. So that would be a choice. Now I will tell you, I kind of have some private stock of paste tomatoes. I contacted Heinz several years ago looking for if they had any suggestions or open pollinated varieties that they grew in tropical type locations, and they sent me some samples of their tomatoes that they grow. It was just kind of a T and 4 numbers behind it, so it was kind of this line of tomatoes that they had that they shared with me, and it's a solid tomato that doesn't have much space in it and lots of solids, so that works pretty well. But all I can say is, if you're gonna looking for the best of something, try several varieties and see what works for you, because there's not a universal paste tomato that works great for everybody, because we have all different growing conditions. So Tammy, you're welcome with that. Now Lisa's asking, where is the best place to plant a lemon tree in the ground in South Mississippi? The best place would be, if you're going to grow it in the ground, I would plant that, and I'd really put it in a raised bed to help with drainage around the root system. and I would put it into the full sun and make sure that if you need it, that you can provide irrigation to it. That would be my advice. Okay, submitted question from Irina. What's the best mulch around large oak trees, pine straw or pine bark mulch? You know, great question. That's one of these classic pine straw versus pine bark debates that goes on. A lot of times it's the look that you want. I don't have really a preference. If you go the pine straw, I can give you kind of the pros and cons. If you go the pine straw, you can put a thicker layer around the beds or around the trees that you want to mulch, because it doesn't hold as much water and there's air movement through it, and so you can put a thicker layer down. If you go the pine bark mulch, then what you have to do, you have to limit the thickness of that pine bark. And I'm assuming is it under like a big live oak tree? Is that? Oh, maybe if I read the question correctly, yeah, under a large oak tree. You don't want to put a layer of mulch under an oak tree like that any deeper than 2 or 3 inches, because what'll happen is the pine bark mulch will compress a little bit and it will block the airflow or the air exchange, because roots, I mean, we all realize that plants, the leaves take in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen, photosynthesis. But the roots of a tree actually respire like we do, where they take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, because they're producing food for the plant, producing sugars. And so we don't want to block that air exchange with a very thick layer of mulch. Thick layer of mulch will also encourage disease organisms, will encourage insect pest of taking up residence. So those are the kind of the pros and cons. You can put a thick layer of pine straw, 2 to 3 inch tops of pine bark mulch around the tree. And let's see here, Irina. Deciduous oak trees. Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying this. 4 or 5 foot diameter. Yeah. You don't want to put a lot of mulch under that tree, because you'll cause some issues with that, and especially never up against the trunk of the tree. If you're going to put that kind of the pine bark mulch, think of it as like a donut, where the mulch kind of thins out right up as you get to the trunk of the tree, because you don't want the mulch up on the tree, and it gets thicker as it pulls away from the trunk of the tree. Okay, where are we at? Is there any way to grow? And Tammy, I'm assuming you're meaning dragon fruit instead of that drang fruit, right? Yeah. In fact, hang on a second. I'll be right back. Thanks for hanging with me. I didn't just leave everybody hanging there, I hope. So the question is, Tammy, can we grow dragon fruit in South Mississippi? Well, here's dragon fruit. You know, it's kind of cactusy looking. These are some that I started last year that I'm going to want to grow. Here, is that a better look? Let's see here. We can kind of see what it looks like. Yes. In other words, yes, we can. It does require cold protection, especially when we get down into like below 35 degrees. And these I'm going to be training when we do dragon fruit. It's going to have more of a straight run of these segments, and it'll flower off of the side shoots. So that's what we kind of want to train a trunk, and then train laterals off where it'll produce flowers. I've never had a flower on dragon fruit yet. I plan on it. I think it's one of these fun, unusual fruits that we can grow or try to grow, and just have some fun, have something unusual in the yard. Oh yeah, Tim, yeah, I understand the toddler thing. Oh, and Mary Tigger, hey, Felder said to tell you hello. And Felder, hey man, how you doing? I hope things are going well, and we've got a really busy gardening season coming up, as you know. Other than that, we've been going. How long have we been going? We've been going a half hour here. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead, unless somebody jumps in here quick with a question. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Oh, hang on. Oh, Dean, you've just put us into extra innings here. What kind of ground covers or plants to plant under a live oak instead of mulching? Recently had tree thinned out. Well, if you've had the tree thinned out, Dean, you're probably getting more sunlight in there. And so that's going to open up some of your options. Let's just put it that way. You're probably still going to want to do, mulched area under there. I wouldn't have expectations of a botanical garden under there, but you probably could start putting some of the more, partial shade annual color in there. I'd look at some of the new big leaf begonias that are out there, like Whopper, or it's one of those. We just did southern gardening on is it Shockwave? But there are some great looking bigger leaf begonias, not some of the real low ground cover types, that I think would probably do really well for you under there. So take a look at that. Go to your independent garden center and ask them for that, for some other suggestions, and see what you have available. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so Joe, what does it mean when my Forsythia refuses to bloom? I moved it to a more sun location, and it still stays green. So Joe, where are you located at? Because in my experience, I don't see much Forsythia here in the extreme south. So I'm assuming that you're up more northern areas. When we lived in Tennessee, I had a lot of Forsythia. I never saw any problems with it blooming. I'm not sure if any of the late cold that we've had will impact those buds if they were starting to open and got cold. If you want to send me that question to southerngardening@msstate.edu, and let me do a little bit of research on that, and I'll get you a better answer with that. Okay, let's see here. Donnie says, I burn my leaves and tree limbs in my garden bed. Is there any particular trees that aren't good? Mine are pine and pecan. Now I'm assuming, Donnie, that you're burning them just to get rid of them, and you're just happen to do it in the garden. I don't think that there's any that you burn that will cause a problem. I might be more concerned if you're doing this consistently year after year, and you're getting a lot of that ash in the garden. That could change some of the physical characteristics of the soil. I just don't have a good notion on that. So sorry about that. Lisa Williamson's, what's the best way to get rid of slugs and snails? Oh my! If if I knew I wouldn't have any slugs and snails. You know, there's the old garden advice about putting a little pan of beer out with the kind of set down low so the snails and slugs can crawl into it. That does work. I think it's kind of a waste of beer, even if it's bad beer. I think it's a waste of beer. Um, and I don't think that you'll absolutely get rid of them all. I mean, you could try that, and if that that may work for the areas that you're concerned about. There are some slug and snail baits that are out there that you can get. I'm not so sure of the efficacy of those, though I've seen people use them in the past. Um, so yeah, again, there's another one that I don't have a good answer. Again, send me an email. Maybe I can do some searching and find you a better answer for that if that works, Lisa. Hey, and Dean, hey, thanks. Really appreciate you chiming in and participating. Yeah, it's a lot of fun talking about the garden. There's no doubt about it. So, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so Irina, can I add additional raised bed soil to my existing grow bags and plant them again with tomatoes, or I need to rotate which veggies? Also, okay, let me go ahead and take the tomato question first. If you're using grow bags and you're using, garden soil or raised bed soil that you're pulling out of a raised bed, I would say that you need to rotate your crops, your veggies through there with the tomatoes. If you're using professional growing mix, which is peat-based mix, you don't have to rotate out those tomatoes. I like to tell folks my earth boxes that I have here. I've been growing tomatoes in these earth boxes for 14 years. I use professional peat-based growing mix in those containers, and I grow the tomatoes in the same earth boxes for 14 years, spring crop, fall crop. So I've been growing tomatoes in these same containers, really, if you want to say 28 seasons. I have had zero root-borne disease issues, no wilt issues. The peat-based mix is inhospitable to those organisms, and we just don't see that type of problem. Not to say that it can't pop up, because it can if we get a little bit of contamination in native soil. But as long as you don't do that, professional growing mix, don't add anything to it, don't add compost to it, then it stays in a more sterile, as sterile as it can be, growing outside. But it's a more sterile environment that you don't see those disease problems. And there must be a noise going on because I've got a shaky dog leaning up against my legs here. Okay, now the other questions. Also, I have raspberries and blackberries in grow bags, 15 and 25 gallons. Those are big grow bags. Hang on, I'm going to have to call them back. Should I trim the leggy branches in triple crown blackberries and heritage blackberries? I am not familiar with that. Here's Irina, here's another instance. Send me an email to southerngardening@mstate.edu, and I will get that information. I'll contact our small fruit specialist, Dr. Eric Staffney at Poplarville, and I will get an answer for you for that. I'm just not a small fruit guy. Sorry about that. Tammy, you're welcome. Yeah, Joe, DeSoto County, it's all over up here. DeSoto County, Memphis. Not surprised that you're growing Forsythia. Not sure why it's not blooming for you. So, okay, Jody had a crepe myrtle grow up to the driveway. I dug up the sprouted part, and then tried putting some of the root hairs in a pot. What are the chances I'll get a new crepe myrtle from those root pieces? I'll tell you, Jody, if you dug up and it's got some some trunk on it, some on it, and you've got some root system on it, put it in a pot. I wouldn't put it in a pot with native soil. I'd use the professional growing mix in a pot. Um, Take it, don't put it in direct sun, but keep it in bright light, but no direct sun, and cross your fingers. Crepe myrtles are pretty resistant trees in our landscapes, and I wouldn't be surprised that it would root for you. I'll tell you, last year at my office at Coastal Research and Extension Center, and last year, maybe it was fall of 2020, we dug up very large crepe myrtles that were along the building. We had to do some work and move them. We didn't want to just chop them down, but we dug those up and we replanted those farther out in our property at the office, and they leafed out that year, or leafed out last year. This year we were out there. We had them all staked up and strapped up. We went out there and started moving them around, and they have knitted themselves back into the ground. It's just pretty amazing because we basically destroyed the root system on these huge trees. So I would say be patient, and you should have yourself another crepe myrtle plant out in your yard and enjoy. Yeah, Meg, hope you're feeling better. You weren't well a while back, were you? No, I'm feeling better. We all listen. We all have our issues, right? But everything is fine, and really appreciate the concern. Let's see here, Nancy. We had a frost in North Mississippi several weeks ago. My blueberries were already bloomed. Do you think some of the berries will mature? Good question. Do you see that the berries are starting to, are they starting to mature? I would say if the flowers had been pollinated and that small fruit was starting to grow, it may have survived the frost. Again, here's a time to be patient with that. And let's see. Oh, Jackie Berger, love your book. Thank you so much, Jackie. I have to tell everybody, Jackie was a student of mine at Illinois State University. What, like a billion years ago, Jackie? Anyways, I hope you guys are doing great. And thanks so much that you like the book. The book she's talking about is Southern Gardening All Year Long. It is on sale right now. If you send me an email, I can send you the link to the University Press of Mississippi. If you'd like a signed copy, we can work that out too. But anyways, yeah, it's on sale now. The response to it has been fantastic. And hang on, since we're talking about it, give me 10 seconds. Yeah, sorry about that. Kate's not home to help me with this, but Southern Gardening All Year Long is I think it's a book of inspiration. It's not an encyclopedic book of 500 plants that you have to grow in your yard. It's plants that have grown well for me and in and around Mississippi and of the Deep South. But we've sold a lot of these books up into the New York and New England area too, because I think it's a pretty good book. Anyways, but you can contact me and I can put you in touch with the publisher or sign copies. We can make that happen. So thanks for that. Thanks for that, Jackie. Appreciate that. Yeah, Irina, Miracle-Gro organic growing mix. Yeah, you should be fine with that. Hey, Teresa, how you doing today? Good to see that you've stopped in. Let's see here. Jody Andrews, love your book, and it was really nice to meet you at the book signing at the Island Garden Center. Yeah, that was a fun day. meeting and greeting and talking to everybody. Since then, we've had a book signing up at Friendly City Books in Columbus. And in a week here, we're getting ready to do a whole week of traveling through the state of, we're going to be in Vicksburg and Laurel. And let's see, Vicksburg, Laurel. Then we're coming back. Then we're coming back to Vicksburg. We're at Lorelei Books on the 19th. On the 21st, we're at the Lauren Rogers Museum in Laurel, Mississippi, just down the street from the hometown folks. And on the 22nd, going to be at the Mississippi Museum of Art, fancy, and at Lemuria Books signing. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Going to have a good time with this. We're really happy with how everything has turned out with the book. So thanks, Jody, for that. Thanks, Jackie, for the praise too. Really appreciate that. Okay, we're at 45 minutes. I was going to call it at 30 minutes, and then everybody jumped in. Here's last call, and then we're going to go ahead and say adios for this Ask Me Anything. Really appreciate all the responses and all the interactions with folks out there in Southern Gardening Nation. And just want to say that just keep Kate and our family in your prayers. Kate's father passed away yesterday morning, and it's just, people know it's just a hard time for families to go through. So just, we appreciate prayers, and we will see you next time. Well, we'll have to schedule the next Ask Me Anything earlier than this. This was kind of a quick turnaround. But anyways, thanks for joining us. Keep sending those questions in to me, and I'll get the answers back to you. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.